Not too long before the making of this video, we finally got our first looks at some of the costumes of the DCU, specifically Mr. Terrific and Superman, adding in Peacemaker, Vigilante, Judo Master, and Blue Beetle, and we have a pretty good start. Superman specifically is a bit of a unique take on the suit, with the colors of the classic suit, complete with the trunks and logo on the cape, the lines and cape placement of the new 52 suit, as well as the collar, the logo shape of the Kingdom Come suit, and the gold outline of the Fleischer suit, and this got me thinking of what the costumes of the rest of the DCU will look like. And so that's what I'll be doing in this video, going over every confirmed character that has some sort of costume in this universe, before also adding in some of the hinted at characters and just some of the bigger players of the DC universe who it's safe to assume will appear, and give my personal opinion for what I'd like their costume to look like, including the comic inspiration, what the material should be, and whatever other details I could possibly add. Let me know what you'd like your favorite character to look like in the comments down below, and subscribe to help me get to 100,000 subscribers. Let's begin with all of the confirmed characters first. It's entirely possible that any day now we'll get our first looks at the other heroes from Superman from set photos, so let's start with them. If by the time you get to this video they've already been revealed, then I guess you can just see how accurate I ended up being. And let's start with Hawkgirl. The version of Hawkgirl in Superman will be Kendra Saunders, who has only ever had really two different designs, with one of them being split into having two different significant differences between them. One of those designs is from Earth 2, and I think is maybe not exactly what they would go for a Prime Universe version of the character. So let's stick to her main universe designs. Her original design had organic looking wings and a matching helmet, while her new 52 updated design has nth metal wings and a lot of extra metal on her costume, including her helmet. In a vacuum, I'm not exactly sure which one I would prefer because I think both of them work. But for one, I think because it's her current design in the comics and it has been for a while, but also it could help differentiate her from a character like Swift who would have organic wings. So I'd go with her new 52 design, but maybe with the midriff being covered. The wings would be CGI, with everything else being a mix between metal and cloth, depending on what it looks like in the comics. I'd like for Metamorpho's design in the DCU to be a bit less clean and smooth than his typical design, for there to be bumps and for all of it to be just a bit uneven. As for how to make this design happen, it could be CGI, but also I do think they could do it practically, and I think the actor who they chose, Anthony Carrigan, kind of already looks exactly like the head of Metamorpho. You just have to paint him white. And looking at characters like Drax and Nebula, I could definitely see someone like Metamorpho being done like that in a James Gunn movie. That brings us to Guy Gardner, with whom I'll also lump in the other two Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns are unique in their long comic history in that they mostly just keep their designs with minimal changes, and instead new Green Lantern designs are introduced through new Green Lanterns. For Hal, I think the new 52 suit should be the basis, using the same material as whatever they used for the Superman suit, meaning it'd be entirely practical. Canonically, it would be made by the Ring, but I do think they're going to avoid the CGI suit because that's what they did in the 2011 movie and people did not like it. John's suits changed a bit more significantly throughout his comic history, but easily his best one is the one he wore in the DCAU and also in the comics for a very long time, and that should be the basis for his DCU suit. As for Guy, the bowl haircut is confirmed, but I actually would like for Guy to maybe have a bit of a character arc and have his hair reflect that, so later on he'd have his later comic hair. As for the costume, the jacket look with the logo on the side is so distinctly Guy Gardner, it should definitely be his suit in the DCU. Maybe to make these Green Lantern suits unique to the DCU and a bit different from the comics, the design of the Green Lantern logo specifically should be a new and unique one, still looking like the Green Lantern logo, but maybe with something about it that's a bit different. Crypto the Superdog should be very simple. A white Labrador Retriever wearing a gold collar with a gold Superman logo necklace and a red cape attached to it with a gold logo on the cape as well. Frankly, this should be exactly his look in the DCU, and this should be done entirely through CGI. For Supergirl, since Woman of Tomorrow is being adapted, it should be the suit from that comic that is adapted as well. This lighter blue is different from all the other modern Supergirl suits and is a lot more similar to Superman's DCU suit. The gold midsection would be entirely unique in live action, and the only difference could be that the logo could match Superman's exactly, complete with the yellow outline. Looking at the villain of Superman, we know that Lex Luthor will be a bald Nicholas Hoult, but what about his armor? Well, it's varied throughout his comic history, but my personal favorite design is the new 52 one, and it's that one that I'd like to see inspire his suit in the DCU. Easily the most discussed DCU costume after Superman is Batman, who is in a unique situation since the DCU Batman movies will release simultaneously with the much more grounded The Batman movies, and so the DCU could take a more fantastical role while being as distinct as possible possible from the Batman suit. So what I'd avoid is the armor-based suits, the very dark gray, the many visible gadgets, and the more thrown together look. Instead, the DCU Batman could bring the light gray and blue color scheme of the 70s and 2000s. In a fabric-based suit like the BVS one, I would, however, definitely remove the trunks. The trunks worked for Superman in live action, definitely not for Batman, because it would be a more comic booky design though, in a more fantastical setting. I'd love for this Batman to finally be given the white eyes in live action, using CGI to do so like they did in Deadpool. To make the suit more its own, maybe the logo could be a mix of a few, maybe the shape of the 2000s logo but with the gold outline of the Rebirth logo, so then that's something that Batman and Superman would have in common in this universe. Since we discussed Batman, let's go over the rest of the confirmed Bat family. Damian has never been adapted in live action before, so there's no real reason not to simply adapt his comic costumes in order. That being said, his Rebirth suit is pretty much a direct upgrade to his original, while looking even more like it takes inspiration from the League of Assassins, so it'd actually start there. Later on, Damian would change to his most recent new look, which is my personal favorite of his, due to it giving him his own unique gray, red, and black heavy color scheme, while also just looking really cool. It's one of my favorite Robin designs. This is what I'd want Damian to look like throughout the majority of this universe, but with the green parts completely removed and replaced with yellow. As for the material, I'd say the suit should be made out of an assortment of different fabrics, with maybe a mild amount of armor added in, but not too much. DCU Nightwing should avoid the main design characteristics of the Titans Nightwing, specifically definitely the armor-based suit and the really deep into the suit logo. Instead, the DCU Nightwing should have a logo that looks more like a bird alongside a much brighter blue that goes down his arms, basically his current comic design. The material used should be a lightweight fabric that allows for as much freedom of movement as possible, and with the explanation that it's a special material that's thin and light but still protective. Cassandra's black suit with the yellow outline logo, stitch-up mask, and white eyes is my favorite Batgirl design and should definitely be her look in the DCU, maybe using the Batwoman suit from the CW as the design basis, and maybe a similar sort of CGI use as the Spider-Man eyes from the MCU. Wonder Woman is also in a very weird place in the DCU right now, because it's in my opinion that the DCEU crafted the best ever Wonder Woman design, one that then became her look in the comics for what seems to be at least a decade. Unfortunately, the DCU Wonder Woman can't really use that design because she'll need to be differentiated from Gal Gadot's take on the character. A good way around this would be to give her a very similar armored suit but with pants instead of a skirt. Honestly though, I think that's only really the case for the first suit. I think that the first one has to be distinct. Later on, they can just adapt the same suit again, just with minor changes here and there. Swamp Thing kind of only really has one design. The question is not what it should look like, it's whether or not it should be practical or CGI. Every previous Swamp Thing has been done practically, and while it did look pretty great in the 2019 show, I think it would look a lot better and also feel a lot better with CGI, which is particularly effective at conveying plant-based creatures. Just look at Groot or Man-Thing in the MCU. I think Swamp Thing would be very limited by a practical design, so he should for sure be CGI. Booster Gold steals a suit and doesn't know how to make another one, so I think whatever costume he has, he'll likely have it for a very long time, unless Rip Hunter or something gives him a new one, for instance. And that suit should be his design from, I think, Booster Gold Volume 2. Booster could add accessories here and there, like in his earliest phase of trying desperately to be a famous hero. He'd add a cape to try to emulate Superman and Batman, but would get rid of that cape once he moves past his desire for fame and he evolves. What I'd like this costume to look like is to be completely metallic, super shiny, and with a lot of fake muscles, to purposely look as much like a DCEU costume as possible, because I think something like that fits something like Booster Gold's costume, and it would kind of act like a critique of the costume designs from the Snyderverse. As for Skeets, who isn't confirmed, but he and Booster Gold are a package deal. I personally just really like the egg-shaped design from the DCAU. I think they should go with that. Vixen's costumes in the comics were not very good until like the 2000s, and even then it was a fairly limited design. Her Arrowverse look, I think, did kind of bring it forward, which then in turn inspired her Rebirth suit. And this is kind of like a snowball effect, with each suit building upon the last and getting better and better. So the DCU Vixen suit should take primary inspiration from the Rebirth design, but should also take this opportunity to maybe set Vixen's new costume, because she's never really had a great design. The suit would be form-fitting, maybe using the material used for the Batwoman suit in the Arrowverse. Static has never appeared in live action, so I think it'd be fitting to simply adapt the animated series design into live action with a disheveled and homemade look, and so would simply be made out of regular clothing. There should be one or two minor details that are different, but that should be the basis. Later on, Static would somehow get a more classic superhero costume based on his new 52 look, with the Superman suit material maybe may be being used while still keeping some of the plain clothing. Titans adapted the New 52 Deathstroke suit, while Arrow and the DCEU kinda just created all new designs using the basic Deathstroke elements. The DCU could very well do the same and make it its own unique Deathstroke design. In fact, they almost already did in the Suicide Squad, as these two are concept arts from the Suicide Squad as Deathstroke was replaced by Bloodsport. This suit I actually really like, specifically this one, and I wouldn't mind if this design is repurposed for the DCU. Maybe the one change I'd make is in the shades of orange and or blue, although I'm not actually sure about that. The biggest question in regards to Midnighter's design is the cowl. Should it be his original, which had these bumps and open eyes, or should it be the later, more Batman-looking cowl without the ears, complete with the white eyes as well? The original cowl is more unique, but it also just doesn't look very good, so I'd go with the New 52 look. In order to help differentiate from Batman, the eyes would glow either red or blue. The suit would be made out of a different material, maybe even armor. The suit would have a black and white color scheme, and instead of a cape, like in the comics, Midnighter has a trench coat. Apollo has two distinct designs. His original with the long white hair, triangle logo, and simpler design. Then is his New 52 design with short blonde hair, mostly white suit, and with the triangle being accents rather than its own portion. Between these two designs, I definitely prefer the newer one. It just looks a lot better and a bit more unique as well. So I'd have the DCU base the Apollo look off of this one, using the Superman suit as the material basis. I'm not fully convinced that Swift will even appear in this universe, but like I said earlier, if she does, then she should definitely be differentiated from Hawkgirl. She should be the one with the organic wings. Somehow her costume is also very similar to Hawkgirl, complete with a midriff, so honestly if they do include Swift, they should simply give her a completely new and unique design, like what Gunn did for Bloodsport, for instance. The Doctor kind of only really has one comic design, and it's mostly just raggedy clothes, so it really shouldn't be difficult to adapt, so I'd definitely go with that. Jack Hawksmoor also doesn't really have a costume. His design is just really a normal looking guy dressed in normal clothes, but with metal palms and fingertips and metal on the bottom of his always barefoot feet. So yeah, just do that. Jenny Sparks also doesn't really wear a costume. The Union Jack tank top and jeans work, add in a jacket if her appearance takes place in the winter. Circe's comic design has varied wildly in both the comics and outside media. If I had to choose one of those designs to inspire the DCU version, I'd go with the DCAU Circe, since in my opinion, that's her best look. That being said, because of how different she always looks, the DCU can literally make her look whatever they want. That was the end of the confirmed characters. Now we start with the characters who have not yet been confirmed to appear in the DCU, but are either extremely important DC characters or were hinted by James Gunn. The most significant unconfirmed character is The Flash. In terms of material, I think the CW show found the perfect fabric for speedsters in the last few seasons that balances looks, comfort, and ability of movement, and honestly I think the DCU can straight up just use the same thing and use different designs and color schemes to make it distinct. Starting with Barry Allen, I would personally want him to already be dead and for Wally to be the Flash, but I could also see him either appearing in a flashback, a project set in the past, or maybe we'll actually see his death, or also it's possible he'll just be the main Flash. With that in mind, I'm kinda done with the New 52 design. I would much prefer the DCU suit to be based on the classic suit, complete with a clean red design without any of the lines or lightning bolt pattern, with a slightly bigger symbol, and a straight lightning bolt belt to break it all up. For Wally, he can start off with his Rebirth suit using the same material as the final CW suit, complete with a darker shade of red and open hair. He would then move on to wearing his classic white eyes using CGI, and with a suit that is distinct from Barry, in the lightning bolt with just one curve, the belt that curves down, and earpieces that are not wings. To complete this speedster set, in my version of the Teen Titans movie, Bart Allen would be Kid Flash. His costume would basically just be the CW Kid Flash suit, but using the Season 7 and onwards Flash suit material, something the CW show never got around to. There would also then be some changes to make it look more like Bart Allen's suit in the comics, with the winged earpieces, a 2 curved lightning bolt to honor his grandfather, and a black lightning bolt design separating the yellow from the red. Like Wonder Woman, Aquaman is in a bit of a pickle here because the DCU Aquaman suit is absolutely fantastic, but the DCU Aquaman will have to be differentiated from him. So, to accomplish that while still looking as good, the DCU Aquaman would be a almost direct adaptation of the New 52 Aquaman design, complete with short blonde hair and no beard, with what is basically the same scaled armor suit but without the muscle design and a color that is a little bit more orange, as the DCU suit does verge on gold. This Aquaman would have a thicker logo attached to a gold belt and differently designed gloves and pants. Martian Manager's comic book design is a bit too naked for live action, but I think simply taking taking the classic design and filling in the places that need filling in while keeping the core design intact could work really well. Jean himself would definitely be fully CGI, but I'd actually make him a little bit more human looking than previous live action adaptations, since this is Jean's fitting in form, that's not his actual Martian form. Up until this point, the live action Green Arrows have exclusively either worn a hood or just nothing covering their heads. They've yet to adapt the Robin Hood hat into live action, at least not seriously, because frankly the hood just looks way cooler. So while I do think Green Arrow's primary costumes should be hooded, the first one we see can definitely be with the hat. The costume itself could be based on the New 52 suit, but with a domino mask and goatee, with the suit being made with the same material as the Superman or Peacemaker suits. Live action adaptations of Black Canary have largely avoided the fishnets, and I think it's time for that trend to end. I'd ever start off with the leather jacket over a black leotard with a yellow zipper before later adding the Canary logo outline. Basically, that would then be her current comic costume brought into live action. DCU Cyborg was barely a cyborg, just parts of his face remained and the rest of him was purely robotic. As we go away from the New 52 influence on the universe, Cyborg should revert back to being a Teen Titan and to having a lot more human parts such as exposed arms and fingertips. This is what they partially did on Doom Patrol, and I gotta say, when you could see it, the torso did look great. Unfortunately, he usually wore a hoodie. When he didn't, he still was incomplete because he always wore pants. And the faceplate really does not look great. The DCU should complete that look while upgrading it substantially as well, using the higher budget of the Teen Titans movie to do so. And I'd say actually make it almost entirely practical because the torso of Doom Patrol looked a lot better than anything of Cyborg in the DCU. But the faceplate should definitely be CGI because I don't think a practical one could ever look good. Raven's comic designs get pretty good, but I think the Teen Titans cartoon perfected it by giving her gray skin, something that I'd love to see adapted into the DCU, with skin paint being used in the vein of Gamora in the MCU. Aside from the gray skin, I actually think Raven's Fortnite design is pretty much perfect, and I wouldn't mind if that was the basis for the suit in the DCU. Starfire has had a lot of designs over the years, but I think most of them are a bit too revealing to be the basis for a live action design. Her design from No Justice, her Rebirth suit, and the Justice League Odyssey suits are all great, but if I had to choose, I think the Odyssey suit looks like it'd be her Royal Tamaranian armor, which can be the basis for her first appearance. But then she would move on to a suit inspired by the Rebirth suit, created on Earth to be a superhero costume. Her skin would definitely be fully orange using skin paint to do so. Her eyes would be fully green, not just the iris, and would glow when using her powers. As for her hair, personally I really like the Rebirth hair that starts pink and then looks like it turns into fire, and so her hair would definitely be enhanced by CGI. For Beast Boy, first things first, he should definitely be painted green, something Titans just didn't bother with. Titans adapted his red costume kind of twice, so maybe the DCU should at least start off with his purple suit. Another thing to consider is how animalistic Beast Boy's default look should be, like he has fur and pointy ears during Rebirth or was half monkey in Young Justice. This is a design concept that is interesting but is entirely unnecessary as well. He could turn into any animal and should probably just be fully human other than his color, while in human form. In my version of the Teen Titans movie, Cassandra Sandsmark would be Wonder Girl, while Donna Troy would be living in Themyscira or something. Cassandra is kind of like Superboy in that she doesn't really wear a costume, instead just wearing clothes, which is fine, but I'd rather she have an actual costume, specifically her design from the Deceased universe, which is a great design, and I honestly wouldn't mind if it became her primary design even in the main universe. As for Donna, I prefer the red for her, but that was already kind of perfected on Titans. To differentiate, I'd have Donna wear a suit based on her Rebirth design and would make it Amazonian armor. With Damian Wayne being introduced into The Brave and the Bold, Tim Drake should appear as the current Robin, who Damian usurps. In his debut, he would wear a suit inspired by his Rebirth costume before then changing his superhero identity and superhero costume, something the comics just have really struggled with. The DCU would be a great opportunity to come up with a new superhero name for Tim, while cementing a new suit inspired by his original and New 52 Red Robin costumes as his primary look. I'd use the overall design of the original while giving him the cape wings of the New 52 suit. This would all just set him apart from the rest of the Robins, giving him his own unique look and way of moving around, using this general audience appeal, brand synergy thing to kind of fix the Tim Drake problem of the comics. Red Hood's original helmet and New 52 designs were adapted into Titans. When it comes to the DCU, I'd like to see his more recent look adapted. This design with the mask that covers only up to his eyes, kind of the opposite of Batman. The rest of the design isn't too different and doesn't really need to be. It's the mask that is the most noticeable characteristic. While Cassandra Cain should be the main Batgirl of the DCU, Barbara I think should be Oracle, meaning her design would just be a red-headed girl wearing glasses and normal clothes sitting in a wheelchair. If she is ever seen as Batgirl in like a flashback, I'd personally choose her black and yellow New 52 suit because it's my personal favorite of hers, and use the Batwoman suit as the basis of the material. Catwoman has been adapted enough that we could probably go for a less conventional and more comic booky look in the DCU, while the Batman movies kind of just continue with the skin-tight black suit. Specifically, I'd really like to see her purple suit with the long hair flowing out of it. I think that could go really well with the blue Batman. After the Shazam movies in the DCU, I think Shazam as a character should not be adapted for a little while. When they get around to him, both his portrayal and look should stray away from Shazam and closer to Captain Marvel. Specifically using Alex Ross's design as inspiration, the lightning bolt covers the entire torso, the white cape goes off to the side, there's a clasp on the top left, and the suit would use the same material as Superman. For the Atom, I'd honestly just take Ryan Choi's suit from The Flash, brighten the colors, throw an Atom logo on the forehead, and throw Ray Palmer in there instead, or maybe not, maybe it should just be Ryan Choi, and boom, you kinda have a perfect Atom costume. It doesn't really even need to be different since that suit had like 1 minute of total screen time. Hawkman's design could be similar to the DCU version, but with just generally with colors that are a lot closer to Hawkman in the comics. Dr. Fate's design could be differentiated from the DCU one by adding back the eye holes and symmetrical design of the helmet, and the costume itself could have just small differences here and there, including maybe in the fabric, which I think could probably just use the Superman suit one. Because it seems like he's going to be played by Jason Momoa, Lobo could probably be done with makeup, using his classic look, with the same going for Brainiac, both being upgrades from their looks on Krypton. From here, we're getting into the lesser known and unconfirmed territory, so I'll be going rapid fire, simply saying which comic design should be the inspiration. Stephanie Brown would be Spoiler and wear her original costume. The Question would wear his classic blue. Huntress would wear her initial New 52 design. The Doom Patrol would all look a lot more comic booky and superhero than what they wore in the Doom Patrol show, all with their original designs. Plastic Man really kind of has just one design and should be that. Captain Atom's full silver design is best and should be fully CGI. Zatanna's New 52 design, Constantine's New 52 design, Deadman's one and only design done with makeup, Etrigan's armor design but with the colors of the classic all in CGI, Ragman's classic stitched together look, the Spectre's New 52 armor and cloak enhanced by CGI, Firestorm's New 52 design, Mr. Miracle's classic suit, Big Barda's New 52 suit but in armor, and Animal Man's classic orange suit. There are obviously a lot more DC characters, especially a lot more villains to go over, but I just feel like we're getting into the lesser known territory here, and I really didn't decide to do that many villains anyway. If you want to know my opinion on a character, then comment down below and I will reply. Thanks so much for watching.